That is your life.
It is, isn't it? Okay, I see a couple of new faces, so I'll reintroduce. I'm Dave Okert. I go by Doc. This is David Shoemaker. He goes by Shoe, and he's pretty much my partner in crime, considering that this basket case is his, and it will soon look like this. And
Hopefully a little bit more than just that.
He's pretty excited about that. We called you together for Playfield swap. And I'll go ahead and pass this top piece around. This top piece is for Flash Gordon. Everybody can kind of take a look. We have CPR, Classic Playfield Reproductions Representative, upstairs, Starship Fantasy. The nice thing about Starship Fantasy is they're out of Arizona. With them being out of Arizona, you pay the same price as CPR, except your shipping is less. And if you buy here at the show, there's no shipping.
Take it away.
It's regular price. Good stuff.
If you buy more, he'll give you a discount.
And yes, if you buy more, he will give you a discount. Larry's a really good guy. And he's new into this, and last year was his, he was just getting started, and he's traveling all over the West Coast and going to different shows and selling the CPR product. For the most part, CPR products are pretty good. They do occasionally have a couple of errors in milling, but they're very minor and they can be easily fixed. So we'll go ahead and pass that top piece around. When you do a Playfield swap, you're going to want to have some sort of Playfield rotisserie, and this just happens to be one of several that I have, and it's wood, and you're going to need to, no, this is not going to turn because it's a funky angle. But as you're doing Playfield swap, whether you're doing a quick cheesy swap or whether you're doing a quality swap, you're going to have to flip it back and forth just for assembly of your components. What I did when I did the xenon swap is I went to the back first and I mounted all of the, let's go ahead and pull this off, it's not working well.
I'll hold this side.
I pulled all of the assemblies and I put the assemblies on first, knowing that, okay, yeah, I may have to go back and run some power braid through them. Mounting them all down worked out great. Then I flipped back over, started posting the front, railing the front, back and forth. And it made it easier when I installed all the sockets. Most people, what they will do when they do a Playfield swap is they will take this whole mess right here, unscrew everything, take out all the staples, throw it on the floor, put the new Playfield up, and then reattach all this garbage. Now, if you've just spent $600 on a new Playfield, or in the case of Pinbot, $900 on a new Playfield, and you're going to put 30-year-old stuff back on it, the least you can do is to break it down, clean it up, and renew it. Each and every one of these assemblies on here, the pop bumpers, the kickouts, the slings, the drop targets, they were all original off of one of 4 different Xenons that I had. It took me 4 to get what I wanted. Some of these were rusted so bad that they barely moved. And what I did is I took them completely apart and reworked everything. This is one of the smoothest working drop target banks that I've ever seen. I took the 4 individual small coils that bring the drop targets individually up one at a time, chucked them up in my drill, and polished them with 1000 grit sandpaper. It's amazing how smooth they are. Same thing with the large one that resets all 4. The other unique thing that I did with this is I have 5 plates and 15 screws in my neck. So for me to solder at an angle like this, is really a bad thing. I shake like a leaf. Knowing that coils fail, diodes on coils fail, I made everything modular. And you're starting to see that in some of the newer Sterns. And what I mean by modular is if this coil assembly fails right here, I unplug it, pull the screws out, and the whole thing comes off. I can take it over to my bench, rework it, bring it back, plug it in, and just plug it right in. Done deal.
You'll pay a little more to do so, because those connectors are gonna cost you, but it's not huge.
If you buy these connectors in bulk, for example, at Mouser, they come down to about $0.10 a piece. And you're almost paying more for the pins. They're about 6 cents a piece. So right around 50 cents an assembly, you've just made it modular. You had a question, Victor?
Are there some people out there that would say that putting a potential failure point in a circuit is not worth it? I did this with mine. I replaced the flippers on my whirlwind, and I did exactly that. I soldered ends on a bench and made it modular.
Yep.
I know that there are some people that would say, well, that's another failure point.
Yes, it is. It is also a current drop position that you can have potential power. What the likelihood of that is going to be in the long run for your use is low.
I really disagree with the potential failure point, simply from the standpoint that these things run at 50 volts. In a newer game, a WPC game, they run at 75, maximum voltage. 75 volts, the failure rate is like next to never. It's not going to happen.
Are there any other negatives that you could possibly think of as to why not do it? I mean, I'm
No, I
just want to know the other side.
There is, if you aren't good at your crimps, that's the number one failure point. It's not the pin connection of the two
Yeah.
ends. It's your crimp of the pin to the wire. That is not exactly an art, but it takes some getting used to. If you don't have the right tools, if you're using a little pair of,
you can't do it. You can't do it with needle nose pliers. That's not going to do it for you.
If those crimps are good, you're not going to have a problem really.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't replace. If you had to replace a coil, well, you desolder the connector. You wouldn't be replacing it again. But you'd be doing that if you're replacing a coil anyhow. It's just a wire. It's just going to be this long instead of all the way into the harness.
The other problem that you get into with a 30-year-old game is how many times has that particular coil failed, and how short has the wire become? Because every
Fails, someone cuts off.
yeah, exactly. And I've actually added a little bit of wire to it, and it does not get in the way of anything. Doesn't cause any kind of breakdown or anything like that. The other thing that, moving along a little bit, the other thing that I do when I do a Playfield swap is I will put in all brand new light sockets.
Do that.
It's
do it.
it's worth the extra money. The extra money that it added to this Playfield was about $100. But I don't have 30-year-old crappy Bally sockets that whatever lamp I put in there might work or it might not, and I twist it and it works, and then I drop the Playfield and it doesn't work. And
How many of these games have you seen with the infinity lights, the chaser lights around the back glass that don't work, or 3 of them work? I mean, you could probably count on your hand the number of ones that you've seen that work properly, as opposed to the ones that don't. They always fail. They're always gone, and it's things like these light sockets that are one of the primary contributors to that. And you just put new bulbs in, and guess what? They blow 2 days later. Is that because it's a bad bulb? No, it's because of a shitty connection. Pardon me. It keeps coming on and off, and that's what causes the bulb to go. So spend a little bit of money, put extra bulb. You got the thing torn apart anyway, right? I mean, because you're going to hate life if you have to put them in once you finish and once you've completed it, and then you're replacing onesies and twosies and trying to do that when they're all stapled in and everything else like that. So,
has anybody ever tried to replace a light socket down in an area like this after it's all populated?
You can do it.
It can be done. It's just, I can replace all of these when I have everything out, and it takes me 30 minutes. To do one of these after it's in, it's about an hour.
You can also, at that point, you know, when you're doing sockets, you can choose, do you use bayonet? Do you want to use wedge? There's pros and cons for those. When you're going through this, you're probably going to go lead in a lot of cases. Now, on this machine, if you don't do a board change, you're going to get flicker, or you're going to spend more on the LEDs. You can get flicker-free LEDs.
And again,
you're not
that's
putting 30-year-old lights in there. Oh my God, no! Please.
again in a game like Xenon, the new updated lamp driver board that eliminates the ghosting with LEDs is worth the $100. It's $99. It's worth the extra bucks. And what we'll do is we'll light this thing up for you, and you can be the judge. And then tomorrow, this game will be upstairs for you guys to play. I do have to fix the pop bumper lamps because I went with, against my better judgment, I went with the originals, and they were a bad design, and they keep blowing the LEDs. I can't keep them up and running, so I've got to go to a wedge 555 in there, which will fix that problem.
Got a good balance.
And that particular Playfield right there, in that Flash Gordon, is just about an average Flash Gordon Playfield. And at any time you guys can come up and take a look at it, it's extremely worn in the center, and that's common for a Flash Gordon. Unfortunately, that Playfield is not salvageable. I mean, Bill Witzel is a master at fixing that stuff, and yeah, that he ain't gonna fix.
Or if you see a Gorgar, usually out wearing the same kind of area, and you get some guy that thinks that they can paint, and it looks like a kid with a crayon did it, and then they mile over the top of it, and you're like, ooh, yeah, special.
Space Invaders.
Space. Don't know what Belly did wrong, but man, did they choose the wrong paints.
Another thing about the CPR Playfields is they've gone with a special maple that seems to be a stronger, more hardier wood, and the clear that they put on it, they now offer the option of not putting clear on it. I wouldn't pay for it without that option. You want the clear on there. It's far superior, and this Playfield will last long time.
The reason why they started offering that option is because there are some people that don't like the CPR clear because they have their own brand, they have their own guy that does their clear. So there were people that were actually getting CPR Playfields that would then send them off to whoever to re-clear them to make, and so they, of course, to re-clear it, you've got to kind of sand it down, you got to get it nice and smooth again. Then you got to go through the process of re-clearing it and spend $300-400 to get a brand new Playfield that's already cleared, re-cleared.
They only drop $40 or $50 off the price, $60.
Exactly, and the Daves have more experience than I do, but I'll tell you that I've been working. I did the restoration. Some of you guys saw the cab restoration seminar earlier, but I've been doing base coat and clear coat kind of stuff for a while, and the stuff that they're using is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the stuff CPR is using. It's hard. It's good stuff. It's that one. Take a look at that one. It's been on location for 1.5 years already. As long as you keep it clean, you're just fine. So I personally don't see the sense in, again, there are people that have their own Bubba that wants to, that they want to have do, and they want to have a thicker clear or whatever it is. But that's why, that's why they offer that option now. That's exactly why they offer the option, because they had people that were complaining because they would get the clear, they didn't like the clear, and they'd have to send it off to be re-cleared.
Some people also don't understand that as soon as you get your Playfield, if you were on the pre-order and you got it from CPR and they send it out just as soon as it's done, it's not necessarily dry and ready to put in. The cure time is, I believe, 6 to 8 weeks.
After they ship it, correct?
After
and
after
they don't
it's been
ship it
shipped.
until about, I think it's 30 days or something after it's cleared.
Yeah. And so, Joe Schmo gets his box like this from CPR and he goes, "My Playfield's here," and starts tearing into it. And then and then the clear fails, And then they're like, oh, what a piece of crap this is. I just paid $600 for this and it's garbage.
So I didn't read basic instructions.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about the sequence? You started to talk about the sequence of repopulating it. You said most people just toss it on the floor, but you
Yep.
started talking about modular. Can you talk a little bit more about what sequence you found really is the best way to do it?
Well, the nice thing about it is you already have the cabinet. Unplug everything, flip this one over and leave it inside the cabinet upside down. And then and populate from your cabinet. I set them side by side. Populate from my cabinet to my rotisserie. And back and forth like that.
The stuff like the braids, you're not going to salvage that. You're
No.
going to leave it on the playfield here, so you don't need to worry about transferring it. This is what you're going to deal with fairly early. You know, it's going to go underneath everything. Look at it as an excavation. So you're going to want to build up the new playfield from bottom up. So
Where I go with it is I cut all of the wires as close to the sockets as I can. And I leave just enough off the socket that in case I get lost, I can take a color reference and say that, oh, this goes to this socket. And I take a lot of pictures.
he's going to cheat.
You're
with
damn straight I'm
his
going to
Flash
cheat.
Gordon, which is just starting up. He's going to be sitting next to my Flash Gordon, so he
Yep.
won't need as many pictures. He's like, what the? Oh, that one. Okay.
There are a small handful of lamps that run off of each other, and they're usually general illumination lamps. They're not feature lamps. And so this one is wired together, and cutting it does nothing. But cutting it on the one side that feeds both, it does.
He is not going to salvage this wire. That's pointless.
Yeah.
The wire, if you've got a lot of oxidation in the sockets, you're going to have oxidation in the wire code. If you've ever tried to solder on a wire that was a little bit blackish, well, that's oxidation of the copper. It's almost impossible to solder that. That's why people cut off the lead from the flipper, because it'll oxidize, and they cut it back, and oh, okay, well, that's kind of clean. So you don't deal with salvaging, a jumper wire, crap like that. You're salvaging the stuff that's color coded, that really matters, and that's what you're tracking.
And like I say, with when you pull all the wiring off first, now all you have are all the assemblies and switches on this on the gray board, and that makes it the wiring is going to get reused. The worst thing that's going to happen to the wiring is I'm going to throw it in the dishwasher and clean
hurt it at
it
all.
because it's filthy. Okay, but
If you're really concerned about the paper tag that might be on the harness, cut the little string, set it aside, put it back on later.
yeah, and one component to the next. And then with pictures and reference, you can tell where your braid wire is going to go. And sometimes you do have to pull a piece back off. So what?
If you have an
big
iPad, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Big enough that you can see and have right there with you. Laptop works really well, so you can literally have it pulled up right there as you're going through one section, and then you just move to the next picture. And pictures are free now, right? So I mean, take as didn't used to be that way, but it is now, right? So
one
take as
trick
many as you can.
with as Doc said, if you have to take something back off, no big deal. One thing to note: any self-tapping screw, it's going to cut a channel into the wood. If you just arbitrarily start arcing the new screw into the same hole you've already done once, you're probably going to cut a new channel into the wood. You do that a couple times, and you're going to effectively saw that hole. Simple trick. Works with wood, works with plastic. Anything that's self-tapping, put the screw up there, start to go backwards slowly. You will feel it tick into the groove, then move forward. It should have almost no resistance at that point because it's using the same channel. That way you're not eating your wood up.
Another restoration tip: if you don't do that, and we all screw up, right? How many times you go to screw something back into wood and it just keeps going and going and going and won't stop?
Somebody's
It's
blowing
stripped.
the hole.
It's stripped. The hole's blown out. Very easy to fix. Get a little epoxy, Bondo. Really, it's going into the wood, and it doesn't matter because it's really small. You get a little bit of it in your finger, put it on there, let it dry, and literally just cut a new hole right in there with the screw. It's going to go right in, and you're not going to have any problems. But
Another
that's,
possibility is if it's a larger hole, you can Elmer glue and a wooden toothpick or two. Right. Along the sides.
yeah, that works too. So the point is that there's a lot of options you can do. Don't leave the screw loose.
No.
Okay, that, a lot of people do that. Don't do that.
Drywall screws are not an answer.
Concrete screws are not an yes. Concrete screws are wider. They're still not the answer.
But if you cut them to length, they.
You got. I see the chuckles, but I'm telling you, these are all things that we've seen plenty. You guys have probably seen them yourself
I
plenty
have
of times.
seen people drill through the playfield and put a nut on the backside. Yeah.
Or they drilled the wood screw thing, or the drywall screw. How many times have you seen a drywall screw where the tip of it's coming up through the playfield, and you wonder why the ball always jumps in that spot, and all of a sudden you go look, and there's a tip of a drywall screw that's popped right up through the. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
True story.
Operators will, there's something laying on the ground I can make work if I pound on it hard enough. And that's what they'll do.
Coming from an operator.
Thank you very much.
It's deep, isn't it? A lot of love in this room.
Yeah, he's gonna have to love
What's
me
up, Bill?
for that one.
Oh, I just wanted to point out, we were talking about screws in the bottom of the playfield. Some tips that I've learned is, especially on the bottom, you have, if you look on the bottom, they use gold, and they use silver screws on the bottom, the hex heads.
Oh, that piece busted out. Look at that.
Those are specific
Yeah, that's the problem
on
with this.
head sockets. Because do not, put the long ones in, you will go to the playfield if you do. And
CPR
that's the way I identify
didn't
everything else should be the
didn't cut it far enough,
5/8 or something,
and so it was too long, and so when I lifted the playfield, it snapped.
Like, so
like that's
normally
on the
there'll be gold and there'll be
Yeah.
silver, so you know the golds are just for the lamps.
Thanks, Bill.
Good thing to know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any questions? You guys are too easy.
Way too easy.
I got a question. So I got here late, I might have missed this in the beginning. Do you,
Then you can leave now.
do you make certain judgment calls and you make improvements as you go, and what kind of stuff do you like to do?
As
It
far as
depends
what?
on how purist you want to be. The question of leads versus not leads. There are people who are so purist, they will not do a playfield swap, they say repo playfield. If I can't find an NOS, I'm not gonna do it. Okay, that's up to you, it's your game, do whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm gonna do something to make it not look like a piece of crap, because, well, my flash gordon's kind of beat. Now, when I bought that thing, there was no possibility of me planning on reproduction. They've come up since, I missed the boat, I got lucky because I knew somebody.
Huh? What?
Yeah, and so, turns out it is an old stock that was damaged. It's been touched up by Bill, it looks great, it'll be perfect, and I'll be very, very happy. And it'll be clear coated, also thanks to Bill, and it won't ever be a problem again. So other upgrades, replacing boards, that's up to, it's your personal choice. So one thing to note, so I've got a space shuttle. I bought it for $200, it's a project. Didn't have back glass. Let's buy a back glass for more than I paid for the project in the first place. Reproduction playfield, $750. Replacement boards, another $500. I can easily spend $2,000 on a $400 game. At the end of the day, it'll be as new as it can be. It's still a space shuttle that nobody wants to pay more than $750 for. I'm not planning to sell it, I'm planning to keep it, I really like that game. I'll do some things to it, I won't do other things. It's just your choice, where your comfort is, what are you in it for?
As far as LEDs go, there's and the purist model. Some games just simply look like ass with LEDs. I mean, it doesn't matter how you put them in; they look terrible. Xenon, on the other hand, is the prime example of why to use LEDs.
Elvira looks good with LEDs.
Elvira does.
Science fiction themed games.
If you get a little flicker, it doesn't matter so much.
Somewhat. Lord of the
They're a
Rings,
little
though,
crisper.
terrible with LEDs.
Yeah.
That's fantasy. That's different.
I'm sorry, fantasy, sci-fi, I apologize.
It's
My apologies
really
for
it's
messing
really
up the geek
strange.
genres.
Flash Gordon, I'm kind of mixed there. I've seen it both ways. It's kind of a toss-up.
It's a continuation of the same question people have about toys being added to their games. There's people who spend almost as much on Playfield toys as they did for the freaking game. I think that's insane. Now, I will admit that my
Guy's killing
Tron
me.
Legacy upstairs has the little Tron upright video game mod, because that's just freaking cool.
It is. It really is.
And it's got some laser cut plastic protectors. They're really well done, they're elegant, they add to the machine. I have seen some of those things that look like a freaking toy store exploded in them. You can't see the ball half the time, I swear.
Here's kind of the thing, though. I think the key is whatever you do, we all think that we're going to keep every one of our games forever. And we never do, right? Because a handful of years later, we've gotten rid of that and got somewhere else.
I've never
Okay,
gotten
he's
rid of-
got 7 Connex boxes, no exaggeration. I'm not lying.
Google Earth shows his house.
Yes.
And you can see the boxes.
7 Connex boxes. My point is that do whatever you want to your game. I mean, it's all personal preference, like David's saying. But my opinion is make sure that it's removable. Okay, don't do something. Use a stock post, right? You want to use a different screw. Length, fine, as long as you've got as long as it's going to a T-nut and it's okay. But don't, use connectors. Don't hack harnesses. I've seen that a lot of times, right? I mean, a good example, I did Lord of the Rings. A lot of people do the Path of the Dead mod, right? To add the figures for the Path of the Dead. I did that. But we use connectors so that way if I want to pull it out, it literally would take me 10 minutes to put that game right back to stock. And it's smart to do that way because, it's just like anything else. You're going to get different opinions on different, ideas. And in the end, if you want to keep the resale value of your pin and still play the heck out of it, do what you want to do for your own, but make sure that you can remove it when you need to.
Or like the Tron, that video game mod, there's 5 different versions they've come out with, each one being better than the last. If it had been hacked in, well, you have to be hacking in each mod. It was put in nicely, it could be swapped out.
All I can say from a wiring harness perspective, and I sell reproduction wiring harnesses around the world for all kinds of different games. Don't hack the harness. To do a complete reharness on a pinball machine, oh my God, it's ugly, and I don't work cheap. I will do it, and it takes months.
Gentlemen, the time is 8:30.
Speaking of taking months, Playfield swap is not a weekend job.
If somebody says they can do a Playfield swap in a weekend, they're doing a half-ass job. Guarantee it.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
It's been on
They
the
did what he
floor.
talked about. That's it. They dumped it, put it all on new playfield, and just screwed it back in. That's how you do a weekend playfield swap.
And it's gonna be full of problems, it's gonna be full of old parts, it's not gonna be what you want.
Okay, so we're going to move into the next section of this, which is going to be the
Wiring Playfield lamps and general illumination.
wiring for Playfield lamps and general illumination. We're going to use the insert from my Flash Gordon, and we're going to kind of take about a 5-minute break because I have to charge up the compressor. I don't want to leave the compressor running so that all the internet folks go, God, what is that noise? It's killing our ears. Ah! So if everybody will give us about 5-6 minutes, we'll charge up the compressor and we'll rock on. Cool? All right.